Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series. And today we are going to be talking about Episode 7, Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And we are joined once again by the Holiday Christopher Mace and Rex DeBoss 11. And I thought this episode was really dark, really good, and very emotional. Holiday, what did you think of this episode?
Oh Lord, man! Going from episode 6 to episode 7, this was a complete 180 in a positive way. Like I said, you're going from building with the first 5 episodes to having such a cluster on episode 6. Now I was hoping episode 7 was going to turn around. They damn sure delivered on this episode.
Oh, big time. Rex, what did you think of this one?
Hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about Peacemaker episode 7. I thought that this episode was great. I thought, like Holiday just said, the fact that they managed to redeem themselves, I was very concerned after watching the previous episode. But yeah, they did immediately manage to redeem themselves. And I will say this for a fact, that from the moment that this almost as in, and I can't express this, and I'm not going to even go into what happened in the previous review.
No.
But it's almost as in they must have known that that episode was going to turn out like it turned out, because
Really?
we just get into it in this episode, and we're already more like the team's more prepared for stuff in this episode, as in like it's now let's just get down to business rather than any messing around, any beating around the bush, any delay, any sort of questioning. We know what the goal is. We know what we've got to do. So let's just get it done.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We definitely got much more of that feel in this episode compared to the previous one, because right from the word go, and you guys definitely probably would agree with this episode was very fast paced, but in a good way. You know, it was just like, it's almost like the producers and the writers said, you know what, we saw what everyone thought of the previous episode. Let's just give them something they wouldn't expect, and they just kicked the door down and said, right, here's what you didn't get in episode 6, enjoy. And boy oh boy, we definitely enjoyed this one much more. And
before we say anything more, yeah, can I just say this? And this is not negative, this is me actually saying they could take a tip from the CW network and film some of this stuff in the dark. It gives it more suspense. The whole issues with the White Dragon, if this happens in a darker environment, I think it just adds way more suspense. To have all this happening in broad daylight, no one's driving by, no one's around. What's going on here? And you know, I don't want to look at it as a negative way. I'm just pointing out
no.
the one thing that they could take from the CW network is dark. So for the people is film some of this in the dark, in the night. So to give, and they do this obviously at certain points in the series that make it way more suspenseful and just different. It's got a different vibe to it. Yeah, I understand what they're doing when they're doing it. And truthfully, if you're driving around looking to do missions when you're in the day, you're probably going to get spotted by people, aren't you?
Yeah,
you know, that is my negative on this, the only negative. It doesn't mean that this episode wasn't absolutely phenomenal, because it was, but I just feel like they are missing out on something here.
Yeah, definitely, because you know, with the whole night aspects of what you're saying, it definitely makes the stakes feel lots more higher and lots more serious. And the fact that most of this took place in
criminals seem to come out more in the dark, don't they?
Yeah.
And criminals are covert. They're not walking around in the middle of the day. You know, this honestly, this made, and not that I'm a fan, of course not, of any sort of, you know, clan or supremacist groups. And although this was very entertaining, the portrayal, maybe they portrayed these guys as a bit clown-like and silly because they wanted to degrade them and the types of people that these people are. But for an enemy to these superheroes or these trained killers, it was a bit questionable. I think they could have done a little bit more with the group of the white supremacists and that. and they could have had these guys a bit more serious.
Holiday, what's your thoughts?
Like I said, I mean, the episode was 180 degrees different than episode 6 that we got. And like I said, I think we had a lot of interesting things happen in the episode. I do agree with what Rex says. Like I said, I think where you have like episode 3 where they're doing everything in the dark, I think when you do fight scenes in the dark, it gives it more of that mystique and stuff. And then when you're doing stuff in broad daylight, you can't tell me somebody wouldn't pass by like, hey, it looks like some guy in a white devil costume trying to beat up another guy that looks like a helmet on his head. What's going on here? Look.
Can you imagine what would a normal person would think bystanding watching this? They wouldn't be necessarily scared. They'd be concerned, thinking, what the hell's going on here? Who are these idiots? That you might not take this seriously, but in the dark, you see all these masked characters start coming out in the dark, doing spin kicks and laser beams coming out. It looks completely different. Like, trust me, it looks way different.
Yeah,
which is the reason why, like, you know, when you go back to old times in war and stuff like that, most of the raids and the war took place in the nighttime because it was way more scary and it wasn't just designed for, you know, aesthetic effect. It was designed for mental as well. It wasn't just about blowing buildings up. It was about the mental torture that it would, and oppression that it would put on the people. And it's all designed in warfare, psychological and in obviously combat warfare. And like I said, these people are trained combat, you know, soldiers and fighters and, you know, whatever they're being portrayed as. But I would have liked to have seen in this a lot of this episode take place in the dark, in the nighttime.
Yeah, I think I would have too, definitely. Great scene in this episode, and we have spoke about her, but probably maybe not as much as we have with the others. But there was a great scene here with Harcourt and Amanda Waller's daughter, where she just basically chews her out for her betrayal. I thought that was really good because, like you said, Rex, in a couple of years back, Harcourt has been portrayed as this character who's all about getting the job done, no matter what. Emotionless person, yeah, exactly. So to actually see Harcourt display that emotion and basically saying to Adebayo that, how could you do this to us? You betrayed us, you know. And I thought, wow, okay, she's actually displaying like hurt because, and if that was Amanda Waller, she would just blasted her brains out and that would have been conversation over. But she was like chewing her out and said, why would you do this to, you know, Peacemaker? How could you do this? I thought that was a really good, powerful scene. What was your thoughts on that, guys?
I think it was definitely you see a different side of her because she's pretty much as irate that, you know, you ruined and compromised the whole mission. You did all this, and you know how could you do this, Peacemaker? And she goes, I was told to do it by my mom and everything. And she's like, your mom, you're Amanda Waller's daughter, and then she realizes that's Amanda Waller's daughter. So now she's even more pissed. And then when Merm comes into the equation, he goes, of course I knew who she was, Amanda Waller's daughter. Don't you think I do background checks on everybody before I bring them on the team? And he just played it off nonchalantly, like, don't you think I do these background checks? It's like, oh, well, fuck it, who cares? It's Amanda Waller's daughter, I don't care, what about it, been a moment. And he goes, I know she planned the journal, I know she did all this stuff, now we got to fix all this. And then it's just that interactions, like the nonchalant fun part of nonchalantly, like, oh, yeah, of course I knew she was Amanda Waller's daughter.
She's covert, isn't she? Hardcore. So she's covert, meaning she is trained to basically be wary of everyone apart from the people that are around her. Because why would they be around her if they've not already been, like you would think, if they've not already been vetted? But where Amanda Waller's daughter has been vetted, he didn't see that as a big enough detail to tell her, whereas she's seen that as a big enough detail. Especially based on the fact that multiple times she has said before that she, you know, hates Amanda Waller and Amanda Waller's one of the evilest people and all this kind of stuff. So you have to imagine, like, in her mind and the way that she is, she doesn't get close to many people except the people that she works with. But that's not something that she technically would let on in case of the fact that these people that she's working with might not be able to be trusted. So it's a difficult place for her to be in mentally. So she's not just what you would see as a cold, icy bitch who doesn't really care, who probably hasn't had a good shag for a while because she won't let anyone close to her. that. Like, you know, you get that kind of vibe where in the early episodes that she probably just needs to get laid. And maybe she even probably like considers it, like when Peacemaker's talking to her and stuff like that. Like, and it's the way, like I say, her visuals change over the episodes, even just in a short span of time. She goes from looking at, you know, Peacemaker with quite disdain to looking at him as in a little bit like, oh, you know, why can't you just be a little bit more like what I want you to be like, to actually genuinely starting to actually feel for the guy and care for him. Maybe not in the same way, in a sexual way, but definitely in a partnership and friendship, and, you know, we're in this thing together way. And that's why I think she goes up to, or not goes up to, but that's why I think she loses her head in that situation. And, you know, she because she's looking at it from the fact that she thinks she's clued into everything, and then she finds out that this woman is not only a snake, she's also Amanda Waller's daughter, which is like, it's everything that she doesn't want. It's everything that she's trained not to deal with. If you think about it, she's trained to ignore signs and weaknesses and things like that, like she's already expressed. But really and truthfully, the one sign that's been there the whole time, which is this girl that says that she's this trained agent, is not actually trained. She's just on the inside, and she's Amanda Waller's daughter. And Hardcore couldn't see through that. I think that's more of why she's angry, because she couldn't see that this woman was a snake, and then B, she gets confronted with the second thing, which is, of course, that this is actually Amanda Waller's daughter, which makes sense as into why she's a snake.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, you know, as I said earlier, Hardcore showing that emotion, you know, as you guys said, this emotionless person never shows anything or displays any form of emotion. I thought added
except anger, of course. She's
anger,
just,
of course.
she's just constantly angry.
Yeah. But as you said a couple of reviews back, that there's like more layers to her character, that there's more to her than just being this emotionless yet sometimes snappy military sort of person, that there is a human side.
She won't be anything like she is at the start of this series. In the next series, she'll be like, towards the end of that, she'll be unrecognizable, I reckon, to the character that she is now, or that she was at the start of the series. I think she'll start to ease up. I think she'll start to potentially be a little bit more, you know, let's say team friendly towards all of the team, rather than just picking and choosing who she wants to respect because of who they are and what they can do. I think she's going to start to look at things a little bit different going forward.
Absolutely. What do you think, Holiday?
I think it's, like I said, I think this is a turn where, you know, you're going to see maybe a different side of Hardigan, different side of all these characters for what the events are going to happen here. So, I mean, this was a game changer episode with everything that happens.
Definitely agree. This was definitely a game changer. And like you said at the beginning, this was a big 180 compared to the previous episode.
Starts off hot, this episode does as well, man. After that explosive argument and all that, we get straight, literally immediately after we've just had that reveal that now everybody's now going to be aware that she's Amanda Waller's daughter. We go straight into the guys, John, the tech guy, Peacemaker, and Vigilante are in the car or in the van, and they're driving, and then that's where they get attacked, which, like I say, you know, without being negative again, they could have filmed that scene in the dark, but it still was a great scene, and it was obviously an introduction to what we're dealing with. Basically, like I said, you know, we're going to get on with stuff now. We're going to deal with this now because we know what we're dealing with.
After their van gets attacked, the next few minutes is, for me, was some of the best things that about this series. You see White Dragon, which is Peacemaker's father. You see all of his followers, and you just see everybody going at it. And I thought this was, for me, the highlight of the series. I really enjoyed this a lot. Only takeaway is, like you said, Rex, this could have been done in the dark. I think this would have added so much more to it, but it was still a great scene. What did you think of this one, Holiday?
I mean, I like the fact that his dad was able to track him with the helmets, that they had trackers in the helmet, so he was able to find his son relatively easily. That's how he was able to find him and do everything, because pretty much John and Peacemaker and Vigilante are pretty much like getting ready to get out of town and do whatever they want to do, because pretty much he's just pissed at the whole idea he was set up. And you know, and then this happens, and it becomes really interesting. This is a interesting scene, because like I said, he goes and they're running through the woods and everything like that, and he realizes that he's got a tracker on his helmet, so they're going to be able to find him. So it's just funny off camera. I wish we would have seen the scene instead of being off camera, but the raccoon beating the shit out of Peacemaker while he's trying to get the helmet to his tail. Just a creative way to get out of it, because they're trying to figure out the tracker. They're like, why is he just running around in a big ass circle like an idiot?
He actually does more. The raccoon does more aesthetic damage to Cena or to Peacemaker than anyone else in this series does. Like the raccoon leaves him scratched and clawed up. Let's be honest. After this scene, or does that not happen in this scene? Because all I know is John Cena looks pretty healthy at the start of this scene, and then by the time that he's dealt with the raccoon, his face is covered in scratches.
Yeah, he was all fucked up from that.
I'm calling it.
Raccoon did more damage than anybody else, so he sold to the raccoon more than he did to anybody else.
I'm calling it now. It's John Cena's retirement match. Final opponent, the raccoon.
Raccoon with the helmet tied to his tail match.
Peacemaker on a pole, Peacemaker helmet on a pole match. Yeah.
Also, now. Brilliant stuff. But this next scene that comes up, I mean, Vigilante, he was awesome in this episode. I thought Vigilante was one of the standouts of this episode. He was just, I think it was one of the few episodes. I mean, obviously, he still had that sense of humor that he has, but I think this was one of the few episodes that I can recall he was actually super serious, at least for this portion.
No, they still had to put in the series, the comedy bit though. Eventually,
of course,
where he was taking a whiz. He has to do like a little boy or whatever. Like we have to pull. You know, when you're young, when you're a little boy, and you pull your trousers right down to your ankles. Yeah, he did that. And the other guy running from behind.
Yeah.
And then that's what I just laughed at before, because that's the first thing that came to my mind in this episode when I thought about Vigilante. It's like when he's taking the piss, and the guy sneaks up behind him. The tech guy sneaks up, and he's got the bare arse cheek showing.
For me, Vigilante, he's like the Deadpool of the show. He's
definitely got that Deadpool vibe to him. Like this, like I spoke about it in one of the previous reviews. This version of Vigilante is just alien compared to the one that we've seen in the Arrowverse. Alien,
as well.
Alien, completely alien.
A different person. It's unbelievable. But he was, for this portion of the episode, he was like really serious. He was like shooting everybody and doing backflips and stuff. I thought, wow, this is not something we've been seeing in previous episodes. He's just been cracking jokes. But here, he's all business, and I really enjoyed that.
He kills himself as well, doesn't he, Vigilante, by dropping that grenade or whatever it is. And obviously, like, he literally nearly kills himself. And he's driving the car, and obviously, like Holiday says, the car's got the helmets in it, so these guys can find him. And then we get to the actual scene where they're fighting, and, it's just him versus his dad, basically, in a one-on-one fight where everybody else stands back. And his dad's about to hit him with the plasma shot or whatever, and Vigilante comes out of nowhere, doesn't he?
Yeah.
A lot of it was interesting. The whole fight scenario was interesting. Like, cause, before they run into the woods, they have a fight, and Vigilante used a bomb trying to take his dad out. A grenade to try to take his dad out, and he hurts himself in the process too. So he's already injured before they run into the woods. Yeah. And then he had everything going on. Then they end up stealing. The Vigilante ends up, stealing the Nazi's car, and that was funny because you could see for the first time that he really is injured, because, like I said, he ends up passing out and running the car off the road. You can see where he's actually injured. And then, like I said, and during all this time, so at that same time, we go back to Hartigan and Amanda Waller's daughter, and then all the police officers that are the Butterflies now are going after Murr now, and then all of a sudden he tells them to leave, and then Murr end up killed, and then when they shoot him, the butterfly comes out, and they kill the butterfly.
Yeah, they to be honest, we should have spoken about that before, but they absolutely just executed him, didn't they?
Oh, big time.
They executed Murr. They didn't even, which, as I said previously about the episode about her becoming the hive mind butterfly, it makes that episode seem even worse to know that immediately into the next episode she replaces the other person who I believe that would have made more sense in her being, which shows that even though Cena and them looked after the goth butterfly, you can see these are sadistic alien creatures because no remorse. That woman, the Asian cop, when she gets taken over by the hive mind, she's clearly got absolutely no remorse whatsoever. She just literally guns this person. Obviously, she knows that he must be one of them. Yeah, and like obviously she knows what's going on. And the way that she executes one of her own kind, knowing that he's one of her own kind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then actually kills the butterfly as well, or attempts to kill the butterfly. And we get the sad moment where the dying Mern butterfly version of Mern is like embraces them before he dies.
Yeah.
Quite sad, but a bit not very nice. Like
Another speaking of sad moment, another good scene, which was actually at the beginning, I think, was you get a flashback of what happened to Peacemaker's brother.
Yeah, the episode starts with once again him pondering over.
That was incredible.
The very emotional, and going back to the piano thing, pardon me, that we heard from the previous episode, it's obvious, and I said this about the psychological side to this character, that he stops and the only thing that he thinks of is that is absolutely haunting him. So it's almost like the Rick Flag thing temporarily was replacing that. But now he actually knows he's doing good. That is absolutely haunting him.
Absolutely.
It's two sides to what's the problem with him. He's going through this dilemma of he wanted to be a good guy, even though he was raised as a bad guy by a despicable human being. But he can't accept that the only reason that his brother ended up dead is because his dad was forcing him and his brother to fight. It wasn't his fault. It was his dad's fault. He can see all the bad in his dad, but he can't accept that point there because it's almost like that's the thing that his dad has obviously used to control him. And it's the Stockholm syndrome thing to it. It's almost like for him to cut off the emotion towards his dad and the way he feels towards his dad is like for him to accept that, his brother died because of his dad, which also means at the same time, it's like that then makes him not the person that he is. He has to completely shed himself of every bit of the element of what he's been raised, and it doesn't make him feel like it's himself. And it's a difficult thing to be. It's almost like being a victim of abuse. When you grow up, it's hard to reprogram yourself to believe that you're somebody who, maybe to believe that you're not the same person that you've been raised to be.
No, I agree, definitely. It was a very the whole flashback stuff at the beginning. Yeah, I actually remember watching it. I actually had a tear in my eye because it was so emotional and really dark. What was your thoughts on the flashback at the beginning, Holiday?
It finally just reveals what we already figured out, that he ended up accidentally killing his brother, and it was because his dad wanted them both to fight to place bets on it. And when that all happened, he ended up having a seizure and foaming at the mouth and ended up dying because of it. And it was because of his dad that's the reason why it happened that way. And I would have, like I said, the only critique I have is that, as much as we've seen Flag through these episodes, that it would have been interesting to have the reveal that his brother hadn't died and his brother was really Flag, and that he ended up killing his own brother again.
Yeah, I would have gone with that too, definitely.
Because as much as they've referenced Flag and showing that same scene where he says, "Peacemaker, what a joke," what an interesting twist that could have been, that his father said, I've lied to you the whole time. Your brother was still alive, and we just renamed him, and he gave us the name what he renamed him. And then it dawns on him that, oh shit, I killed my brother again. and
This
then he
one's
snapped.
real.
Even outside of him being his brother, a lot of that is it's to do with as well the fact that yes, he took his brother's life because of what he was being forced to do, but he also took Rick Flagg's life because of what he was being forced to do.
Yes.
Right.
But he chose to take Rick Flagg's life. Whereas with his brother, he didn't know what was going on. And the two things in his mind might be one and the same. He might see them as him once again being manipulated like he was with his dad, and somebody else has got killed because he doesn't have the guts to stand up to his dad. Or Amanda Waller, of course, yeah? And it's this consequences when he can't be the man that he wants to be. And that's the bit that I take a lot of that from this version. I mean, not to go back to the wrestling world, but a lot of this Peacemaker character, like you say about the emotional side, that it makes you sort of get a tear in your eye. It's almost the point of the character to Cena that I wanted to look at back in 2014 and see this guy is just trying. He's just doing his job and trying. And, when Cena came back and he looked Roman Reigns in the eyes and said, I had to come back because you can't do your job properly.
Oh.
I almost felt like, that's actually true. Cena was hated for just doing his job properly. But yeah, other guys like Reigns, they weren't hated for not doing their job. They were hated because the company made it super obvious of what was going on. Yeah. Whereas with Cena, he'd got to the stage where, yes, the company had done the same stuff that they were doing with Reigns with him, but then also he tried to become something a bit more than that. And he put people over, and he refused to let the company constantly keep, when you look deep down in it and you think the pushes of CM Punk, who did he defeat? He was defeating guys like John Cena. It was just the perception that John Cena was the bigger star than him, yeah, that was the problem. And when it comes down to it, it's like John Cena must have been going home and been so depressed around that time. Must have hated his job, hated his life. You can only imagine. And now we're actually getting to almost see this play out as this Peacemaker character.
Definitely. I'm
I know
definitely.
that they're nothing to do with each other, but like you said, the tear in your eye, it almost makes me feel more sorry for that John Cena character that was trying to give the fans what they wanted, but the company was obviously not allowing certain things to happen. And then eventually when he came back and started saying those more honest things like to Roman Reigns, people were still booing him because they hated him because of what they knew he was before. It's a lose-lose situation for somebody in his position. And I think this character of the Peacemaker, as I've said in the previous reviews, it's just perfectly cast for Cena. Cena beautifully portrays that character of, I know you might not like me, but please understand why I am doing this.
I'm only doing my job.
Yeah, like I'm just doing what I'm paid to do, or what I'm expected to do.
Well, Cena, or Peacemaker, shall I say, he finally did stand up for himself. He pulled the trigger on his dad, and to me,
WrestleMania moment.
That to me, that was a pop moment. It's like,
Look, don't get me wrong. You got some outside interference help or whatever. Because I'll be honest with you, like, John came to the rescue here. Like, Vigilante saves Peacemaker, and then Vigilante is in trouble. And then still at that point there, Peacemaker's still refusing to accept that his dad might actually attempt to kill him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Big John, the tech guy, the gorilla killer, comes out, and he literally with the P90 absolutely mows down the whole Ku Klux Klan, and then leaves it so that, well, he actually still leaves the door wide open for Cena's dad to kill Peacemaker. And then what happens is the luckiest thing, plot hole happens in the malfunctioning of the suit. But the suit has taken quite a lot of damage, so at least that's one thing, isn't it?
What was your thoughts, both of you, on Peacemaker killing his dad?
I like the build to it, though. I mean, I do like how it got built because, like I said, it was, Vigilante goes, attacks him, Eagle, I'm sorry, might get him opposite, but I know Eagle goes after him first, trying to protect him, because you got to think, when they all get in the car, he goes, and he realized that Vigilante has all the other helmets still in the car. They got to throw them all away. That's how they are found, and everybody's chasing them. and John tries to escape out of the car and stuff, and Vigilante's there, and they're beating him up. And then, like I said, that's right, Eagly comes to save him and attacks people, and then Nazis, and then goes to attack his dad, and his dad shoots him, and then Vigilante goes and attacks him, and then he can't get his thing to work now. So then they have this big confrontation. He finally just loses it. All the memories of the pain and the anger finally flows through his head, and he finally just had enough and just shoots him in the head and takes him out. And then you see the emotional release. He just breaks down and starts crying. And during that moment, that all you see Vigilante, if you move your face around, they won't be able to tell who you are. Talking about previous episodes where Vigilante thought if you moved his face in different position, nobody tell who he is.
Yeah, because he's the Flash Superman now, isn't he?
Yeah, and then John looks at me and said, he's crying, asshole. He's crying right now.
That was a very deep scene and a very deep moment, and those two just like, really? he just killed his dad.
Yeah, there's, like I say, in this episode, Vigilante, they still can't. You can tell that this guy is socially completely unaware of literally anything that, is taking place. I mean, we haven't yet spoke about, obviously, the end of the episode when we finally get the reveal, the cow. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you guys seen this part of the episode, but the end of the episode where they reveal where all this marmalade or jam or whatever this honey thing is, that substance that these butterflies are eating. It's a bit of a out of left field because of what we've just seen previously and the whole brawl and fight and war with the Ku Klux Klan members. But I think it's relative because the problem is in this whole scene where they have this war and then they go from that into the emotional thing with him killing his dad, what they don't want you to pick up on is the fact of that there is no consequence to this, no matter how, because obviously a lot of people at this point would have just been looking at the dad for what he was and ignoring the fact that this is still John Cena or Peacemaker's dad. There's going to be an emotional involvement into him killing his own dad and how this scene took place. I thought that they played this very, very well, and they didn't end the episode on this. For once, it wasn't too much. There was enough, and then they gave us that nice little ending to the thing to keep us remembering that, oh yeah, these guys are not actually the big bad, are they? The big bad is the butterfly people. So we need to see what's happening there. But it wasn't enough, as I said, in the reverse, for us to completely forget what happened here and not to take seriously what happened here. I thought that this was a great, like, especially the last like 10, 15 minutes of this episode, I thought was absolutely fantastic.
And I love also that they made Harcourt the new leader. I thought that made a lot of sense. I thought that was a good move.
He was the obvious choice, you know what I mean? Like all the other John, obviously, the tech guy, obviously had his crazy, insane moments. And, he showed that he's not just a wimp with a dyed beard or whatever.
No.
He's definitely not the guy to be the leader.
Definitely
Cena
not.
can't be the leader, or Peacemaker can't be the leader because he's the main soldier or whatever. Like, he's going to be the Rick Flag in this, obviously. Yeah. And Vigilante is just too unstable and crazy to even be considered at any point to be the leader. So she was the obvious choice. I mean, you could have thought maybe Amanda Waller's daughter, but I think that I think she needs to get away from this team as quick as possible. I think she needs to get out of this line of work and go into something else as quick as possible.
Yeah, definitely. What was your thoughts on the ending, Holiday, as we start to wind this down now?
I mean, it was interesting. Like I said, the Judo Master fight with Hardigan and Amanda Waller's daughter was very interesting as well because, they find the butterfly Myrrh and stuff, and the butterfly dies in her hand, and then here comes Judo Master to come try to ruin everything. He beats the shit out of him for a little bit, then finally they're able to defeat Judo Master again, and like I said, it was very interesting, and then we see that emotional scene where they took Eagly to the vet and they're holding the vet people hostage while they're having forced a check on Eagly because, Peacemaker thinking Eagly is going to die and Amanda Waller's daughter's looking and watching as the Eagly gets up and Peace after seeing it after Peacemaker's crying, and Eagly gets up and gives him a hug, just like you see in the first episode.
That was nice.
And Amanda Waller's daughter, who he had told in the second episode that, no, the Eagly has hugged me before. Like, no, he hasn't. Oh, no, Eagly's hugged me. And she sees it, and then she has epiphany, like what she did was really fucked up to Peacemaker.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought that was a nice scene with his pet eagle hugging him. I thought that was quite a nice
He
way
told her in the previous or one of the previous episodes that the eagle hugged him, and she was like, "The eagle hugged you," like as in like she didn't believe him. And then when she seen it happen herself, it was like, you know, like, oh, holy shit! Like this guy who does come across as this completely disconnected, completely delusional character at times, actually does have somebody who cares for him, somebody who probably wouldn't necessarily care for any human being. It's a freaking eagle. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the one, if you look at every single person that is involved in that situation, the one person who doesn't love him is his dad, and the one person who does love him is an eagle. And they are so far away from each other what they should be. It's amazing. Your dad should be probably the only person who accepts you for who you are, whereas the eagle should be the thing that attacks you every single time it gets near you. And then there you go. It just goes to show how upside down that John Cena's world or Peacemaker's world is in this universe.
Absolutely, I agree. Would you agree with that also, Holiday?
Yeah, you definitely would agree with that. That his best friend is the eagle. Because like you said, up until now, like I said, I mean, everybody, he's starting to now feel like he has people that he can be around, even though he's pissed off at Amanda Waller's daughter, and we'll talk about that more in the season finale. But he's just, he's trying to do what he can, like I said, and he's pretty much ended up killing his father finally. Everything came built up to that point. And, Eagly's hurt, and then he has an emotional moment with Eagly, and then it's funny, all right, we got to take down the cow before they teleport the cow and get away, and we'll never find the cow again. Let's finish this mission. And then it's funny, you see the veterinarians, they've already untied the veterinarian, they're all getting guns, like, all right, we're ready to go. Oh, no, y'all not coming. Y'all not coming to this. What's wrong with y'all? Those veterinarians are ready to go gun ho and start shooting some fuckers. I said, man, we need all the help we get. Come on, get in here. You could be our body shields. Come on, let's go.
What did you think about the cow, guys? Like, what did you think about what it looked like, etc.?
Oh, what you see at the end.
Yeah, the big, like.
Do you know what it looked like to me?
Slug.
Do you remember
like a big?
Yeah, a little
alien eyes. Big slug with alien eyes.
It reminded me of who remember Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, a giant
like that.
Krang with like some kind of like alien like ET style eyes.
Yeah, that's what it looked
like. It had like four eyes. It had like four eyes. It had two lower eyes and two upper, wider, bigger eyes.
It's like a love child of ET and Krang.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It was.
I mean, it looked like a big.
It didn't look like a giant version. In fact, I've got an even better thing. It was like a love child between Kwang or Krang from Turtles and Jigglypuff from like a giant hybrid
version.
It was really creepy. To be honest, it kind of freaked me out. To be honest, it kind of freaked me out.
After all that badass we had in this episode, I thought, yep, Peacemaker pulled the trigger on his dad. All is right in the world. Harcourt's the new leader. I thought, this is great. This has been a fantastic episode. And then you get that, you think, what the hell was that? And
there was the mini short at the end where the Casper does the like update about what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And they go down into that. You see the hype thing, the cow, and then they're standing at that podium talking about Peacemaker or whatever they're talking about.
Certainly an unusual ending, to say the least.
I mean, I think it's because of the depression and the sadness towards the end of the episode, And I don't think that they wanted people to dwell on any sort of sadness towards the dad, but they wanted it to be made clear this was not an easy thing for the Peacemaker character to have done. Anyway, shall we get back to the big bad that we've got that's coming up next week? Like, that's basically what the ending was like. And I don't have a complaint with that. That's not actually a negative. I feel like they shouldn't have ended the episode on the dad being killed or him killing.
I agree. No, they did. It was the right call to make. Would you...
Let's be clear, we'd seen nothing of the butterflies in this episode apart from them in cold blood gunning down Mur. We'd seen no repercussions or follow up from that. Bearing in mind that the girls weren't in the same episode or in the same scenes in this episode as the guys were. The teams were completely separated, weren't they?
Yeah, more or less.
The girls were with Bird at his apartment or going to see him, and the guys were on this mission. So at no point until the end of the episode did the characters like Peacemaker and that interact with, hardcore and people like that, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Would you agree also, Holiday?
I definitely would agree with this. Like I said, this is all together. This was a complete 180 episode. It built up perfectly for the season finale, the final showdown with everything, and it was completely different, which was a good thing. Like I said, I mean, they closed out one of the sub stories of the show with him having to face his father, and now it's time for the main event, as we would say, for the season finale and what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, it's basically like he's overcome. And if you remember, another wrestling legend, this is basically Goldberg had to defeat Scott Hall before he got a shot at Hogan on the night when he won the title. Yes. This is the Scott Hall, isn't it? He's just defeated Scott Hall, yeah, who, in turn is a more important character to Cena himself or to Peacemaker, but to the whole scheme of things, the big bad is obviously the butterflies, which obviously in that extent would have been Hogan, yeah? And, for me, this was a 10 out of 10 episode because the last episode was so bad, but it was really a 9 out of 10 episode because there were things in this episode, like I said, about the lighting and where this was filmed. There were things that if this hadn't have been so better than the previous episode, I probably would have been a little bit more subjective towards it. But I was just so happy that they managed to redeem themselves because, the previous episode had left such a bad taste in the majority of people's mouths, I believe.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, before we wrap this up, we're going to do a rating. So I'm with you, Rex. I'm giving this episode 10 out of 10. It was that good.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would definitely go 10 out of 10 with this episode. I think they delivered on the climax of the sub-story between him and his father and continue the story, get to like I said, the main course for the season finale and what's to come with the season finale.
Absolutely. Definitely. This was fantastic.
Something that I was definitely excited for after watching this episode. I was very, very excited for the season finale.
Absolutely.
And spoiler alert, some of the season finale actually takes place in the dock. And I can tell you already that makes it a very, very, very exciting and just feels so good. So, spoiler alert, get ready for the positive finale review.
Well, that's going to be it from us. We are going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 7? Did you enjoy it? And what was your thoughts on Peacemaker pulling the trigger on his dad? Do you think it was the right call to make? And if so, what was your thoughts on the whole situation with his brother? Do you believe it was his fault or would you blame his dad? And also, what was your thoughts of the tease at the end with the big cow in the cave? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And we will see you on the final edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series, where we are going to be talking about episode 8, which is the Season 1 finale. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, much appreciated as always. Thanks for listening. Holiday Christopher Mace, Rex the Boss 11. Great having you here as always, guys.
Peace out, guys. Thanks to the Warhawk. Thanks to the Holiday for being here. Shout out.
Everybody have a good night.